Hello and welcome back to Here's the News, the live news show on Here's the Thing. I'm joined with my co-host Ari. We're fresh off the review of Avatar: Fire and Ash, a long theater sit today, but we still have to cover the news for you because the news does not stop even if you got to sit in a theater for like 4.5 hours to watch Avatar. Ari, how numb is your butt right now? Are you ready to talk about Here's the News?
Yeah, it's pretty numb. There will be some exciting things to talk about, some not so exciting, unfortunate things to talk about, but I'm definitely ready to do it.
Yeah, let's talk about the biggest news story in all of Hollywood. Labubu the movie. Ari, can you believe it? Labubu the movie has been greenlit. Uh, it is from Sony, directed by Paul King. Are you going to be there day one for Labubu like you were for Avatar? 3D IMAX opening night?
Paul King can't direct another Paddington movie, but he can direct Labubu the movie. I thought it was upsetting that he was doing Wonka and leaving Paddington, but this is something else. I mean, maybe it'll be watchable now. I mean,
If anyone can do it, he can do it, right? He could make Labubu cool. Or at
so
least wholesome, you know?
Labubu is just like a doll.
Yeah, the dolls with little personalities, kind of like the trolls, you know?
Is there lore like Five Nights at
Look,
Freddy's?
I haven't dissected the lore yet of Labubus, but I will have to get back to you. Next week, I'll
When
have watched multiple 8-hour videos on Labubu deep dive lore, and I'll become a
when
super fan.
when it comes out and gets terrible reviews, you'll have already seen it 5 times before it's been a week.
Yeah, I'll be here to explain to you why it's great.
Because I am here to expose the truth. Tristan has now seen Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I know you don't want this to be public, but it's too late. Five Nights at Freddy's 2, he's seen it 6 times, and round 7 will be happening very, very soon.
I can't get over it. You know, I talked negatively about it on the show last week. I feel like I have to apologize. You know,
You gotta apologize to the fans.
I'm sorry to Freddie. Really.
You're one of them now. You're one of them. Um, but yeah, this. I mean, I guess if anyone can do it, it's him, the guy who made Paddington. But I can't. I mean, I don't really know what to say. I'm not. I'm not an expert on the Labubu universe.
No, me neither. We'll check out on that once it gets into production and see if that actually happens. You know, I'm wondering if this will be one of those things where they say, "Oh, we're making Labubu a movie," and then it doesn't happen. And like by the time this comes out, does anybody care about Labubu? But yeah, we'll see. We'll
What will
see.
come out first, Rush Hour 4 or Labubu the movie?
Whichever sells, you know. I think we'll go with the Labubu. I'm praying for Labubu. I think that's what I'm gonna
Netflix
go with.
Netflix owning Warner Brothers will get this movie made.
I wanted to have some quick positive news before we get to a week of some hard news. Dick Van Dyke, legend of star and stage, turned 100. It's an accomplishment of anybody, but as somebody of his stature, of his fame, it's a fun accomplishment. Dick Van Dyke was a World War II veteran. He started acting in the 1950s because he was inspired by Buster Keaton and continues to act even recently. He's most recently appeared in 2023 on episodes of Days of Our Lives. He was also the oldest competitor on The Masked Singer. He went home week one, but when they pulled off his mask, he got a huge standing ovation because that's Dick Van Dyke. He's still out there dancing at 99 or whatever it was when he filmed that thing. And he actually has an upcoming movie in pre-production called Capture the Flag, following a bunch of old men at a retirement home who play a really intense game of Capture the Flag in order to be the one who gets to rise the U.S. flag every morning at their retirement home. That sounds like a pretty fun boom movie to me. But yeah, you have any memories or favorite movies of Dick Van Dyke, or you just want to give some praises to
Well,
a legend making it to 100 years old? That's not a small feat.
Well, I just wanted to add in they did a similar thing they did when I think it was when Betty White had passed away, like a celebration thing in theaters, and they did that for Dick Van Dyke, but it was a celebration that he's still alive, that he that, that he made it to 100. Yeah, I'm unfortunately not very well versed in his career. I actually grew up knowing him from the Night at the Museum movies directed by Sean Levy.
Hey, those
Uh,
count. That's work right there. Those are
yeah,
classics.
those are classic Sean Levy films. I wish he was in Deadpool and Wolverine. Maybe it would have been watchable then.
Oh
Uh,
god.
but but I also know him from the Mary Poppins movies, and his cameo in Mary Poppins Returns was very, very fun. But I definitely need to watch the Dick Van Dyke Show. I need to get more familiar with his career.
Yeah, I obviously know him from Mary Poppins, but that's the one thing I always remember him from. And Mary Poppins Returns, he came back and they got to do a dance. And at whatever age he was then, it was so impressive. It was like 95 or something when that came out. And I was like, God, he's still going. I
Yeah.
can't believe it. And he was still going.
And they gave Lin-Manuel Miranda the Dick Van Dyke role, the new one, where he did incredible British accent.
Yeah, spot on.
Perfect.
I want to move on to some harder news. It was a rough week, of course, in Hollywood. One of the deaths I want to highlight before we get into others is Anthony Geary from General Hospital. He was 78. He was on General Hospital for almost 40 years. He was a staple of my mom's childhood, of my teenage years. I've seen him in so many crazy storylines involving druggings and hallucinations and him falling and hitting his head and thinking he's a pirate afterwards. Classic soap opera shenanigans. He was on there for 40 years, so he's definitely a staple of that show. You can see the influence of Gary across the soap opera genre. He's in all kinds of like bad boy storylines, even in stuff like Riverdale, and you have like the bad boy, the rich bad boy that you can't help but be in love with. That's him, and Luke and Laura's wedding on General Hospital was watched by more than 30 million people and now still remains the highest viewed event in soap opera history, and he gets to be part of that. So a big legacy to leave behind, someone that's part of my childhood. I don't think you have any memories of General Hospital, but I wanted to shout him out because he's someone that I think is getting a little bit buried in the headlines, but a legend of TV history. What I believe the most of any daytime Emmy winner in history.
All I know about General Hospital is that it's gotta be like the longest running show ever. I mean, it's either that or The Simpsons, but yeah, 15. They're on episode, I think, feel like 15,850 something, and they're still in season 1. They haven't. There hasn't been a second season yet.
If you watch Twin Peaks and you love Bobby Briggs or any of those kind of bad boy characters, you genuinely do owe a lot of debt, especially Twin Peaks. They've got the name Laura, at least partially from Luke and Laura on General Hospital. So you have a lot of Twin Peaks legacy in this guy. Let's move on to the best. We'll save that. We'll cover the next death. We'll go on to the big death in the room here before we get on to any of the good news. Unfortunately, we'll cover a really hard death. Rob Reiner passed away in shocking fashion. I don't really want to talk about the way he died, but I just want to spend some time talking about Rob Reiner and as well as his wife. Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner, they were both killed in their Hollywood home. Rob was 78. Michelle was 68. The couple met when Michelle was working and when Harry met Sally. Rob had planned to call up the recently singled Michelle Pfeiffer before cinematographer Barry Sonfeld said, no, you're not calling up Michelle Pfeiffer. You're going to talk to my friend Michelle and you guys are going to get married because I know you guys are going to get hit off so well. You're going to get married. Turns out he was right. Michelle and Rob had an instant connection and when they met on set, and meeting Michelle inspired Rob to change the ending of the film and ultimately make Harry and Sally come together in that last scene. And just as Rob and Michelle fell and came together in their life. So Michelle contributed to the ending of that movie. She also contributed to all of Rob's career. She worked as a producer, as a photographer, as a political activist throughout her entire life. She was an Emmy winner for the Albert Brooks documentary, Defending My Life. And she also, like I said, led a life of political activism. She was founder of several programs, including I Am Your Child and Parent Actions for Children, who were focused on early childhood development and protecting children with mental illness and disabilities, something that she was very, very passionate about. Rob Reiner, her husband, was a prolific and inspirational film director and actor. He rose to fame on the groundbreaking sitcom All in the Family, where he won 2 Emmy Awards. He co-starred with Anthony Geary on that show, so 2 legacy actors from that show. His directorial debut, This Is Spinal Tap, revolutionized the mockumentary genre, kind of created what we know now as that genre. And despite kind of struggling at the box office, went on to become a cult favorite. And his career spans many of those cult favorites, including The Sure Thing, Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, the Oscar-winning Stephen King thriller Misery, and the box office smash hit A Few Good Men. He also directed Oscar-nominated films The American President and Ghost of Mississippi. Rob was an outspoken liberal and critic of conservatism. He co-founded the American Foundation for Equal Rights and pushed for marriage equality in California. He lobbied as a health advocate, pushed for taxes of tobacco, and used those taxes to fund early childhood development programs. As an environmentalist, he saved California state parks from being torn down, turned into real estate, and he has the illustrious honor that many hope to have. He was made fun of on South Park for being so liberal that they had to mock him. So, it's a badge of honor, I think, to be mocked on South Park. But what do you think, Ari? Do you have any feelings on Rob Reiner's career? I know it was a very shocking headline. It was a hard news to take, and there's a lot of negativity and toxicity around this headline, a lot of really shocking conversations. I don't really want to get into the grossness of how it happened or why it happened, but do you have any thoughts on Rob Reiner's career, what he meant to you, what his films might have meant to you?
Yeah, I've seen about 4 of his films now. I've seen Stand By Me, Misery, This Is Spinal Tap, and When Harry Met Sally. And I'm a big fan of When Harry Met Sally, mostly because I just love Nora Ephron. And it seems like they really got along well because he had acting roles in her 2 films after that, which were, I believe, Sleepless in Seattle and Mixed Nuts. So, and I really like When Harry Met Sally. I love the ending, but I thought it would have been cool. It's cool to have a movie about a man and woman being just friends. And the ending does work, but I always thought it would have been nice if they don't get together. But I really like Misery too. I really like Kathy Bates. She's probably one of the best actors we have around. But yeah, it's just very, 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 very sad news. Very, very shocking news. And he was most recently on the newest season of The Bear, so he'll also be remembered for that, for coming back to TV.
Yeah,
It's
he was
just
one of those actors who got to, or one of those directors who got to act, right? I think that makes him a lot
yeah,
more iconic in our minds because we don't just know his work, we know his face. We've seen him on TV, we've seen him in movies. He was in the Spinal Tap. He's the first face you see in the first scene in the
yeah.
Spinal Tap. So he made himself very present in his own work, and I think that has made this loss extra shocking.
He played a delivery boy in Batman, the original series.
Oh wow, we got another classic
Yeah,
show with Rob Reiner legacy.
because his father was in the industry, Carl Reiner.
EDM has mentioned some thoughts on Anthony Gary from General Hospital. Introduction was Anthony Gary's daytime Emmy submissions, and even when the character was over the top, his emotion was true to the scene. He deserved his Emmy wins. I agree. He was great part of that show from what I watched. He also says, thanks Rob Reiner for shaping one of the greatest performances of all time, Kathy Bates in Misery, and thankful for their shared love. Then gave us When Harry Met Sally, a modern New Year's Eve classic. Yeah, you mentioned that you have mixed feelings on the end of the movie, but I think it's a nice touch that was a personal life event that changed that movie. He experienced love in real life, and it made him believe in love enough to make that happen in the movie. That's a very touching look at that thing. I always think of The Princess Bride when I think of Rob Reiner's movies. I watched that so much as a kid when I was at like after school programs and stuff like that, and it feels like when I look back on it that it was in a way my introduction to a lot of like the surrealist stuff that I find fun, like the non-reality kind of dream world logic of that movie is something that I've always really enjoyed. I want to go back and watch that now in memory of Rob Reiner. I know they're showing it in a few days at the Chicago Rooftop Theater, so I might go up and see that for the memorial screening of Rob Reiner. But yeah, really, really shocking loss. Not just Rob Reiner, but also his wife, who had a really strong career as a political activist and a photographer. Ironically shot the cover photo of Art of the Deal, the Donald Trump autobiography, and then went on to be married to and actively supporting very hardcore Democratic beliefs. So that's a pretty fun touch in history. But yeah, really, really great people. It's terrible to see them go out in such a shocking way, but they're blessed to have this legacy left behind and this impact they've made. Not a lot of people get to have a life that has not just made art that impacts people, but actually impacted people in real ways. We like to talk about movies like they're so important, but they actually went out and did stuff with their life, right? They did stuff with their money, made it actually happen in real life too. So that's something I'll always respect. Putting your money where your mouth is, and actually going out and doing something with your money and making change in the world, not just sitting there and saying, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that. But what are you doing to make that happen, right? They actually did make that happen. So a really terrible loss, and they'll be always remembered for their work and also their impact. Anything else for you on that topic, or you want to move on to some Oscar news?
I think we can move on to this.
This is some really interesting. I want to hear your thoughts on this. We haven't talked about this too much, but it's really, really fun news here. The Oscars have moved to YouTube. Starting in 2029, they'll be abandoning ABC and going completely on YouTube. The Governor's Ball, the pre-show, the red carpet, and the Oscar ceremony itself are all going to be free on YouTube live that night. So it's going to be a big step for accessibility. It's going to be everywhere for everybody to watch, but people are kind of questioning, is this going to affect the prestige of the ceremony at all? And how do you feel, Ari? How are you feeling about this news?
I think this is very clearly them getting with the times. You know, people do not have cable. A lot of people, most people do not have cable anymore. And also just I think they want the views. They've been struggling with viewership in the last several years, and YouTube, when you're on YouTube, everyone can watch that. So I think it's a mixture of both.
Yeah, and I've been noticing a lot that YouTube is essentially the future of video, and people aren't competing with other channels. They're not competing with other movies. They're competing with YouTube, and I think the studios are recognizing that. So it's a good. I think it's a move towards people watching the Oscars. I'm curious how this affects the viewership, and I think the accessibility will only increase viewership. Right? If you can just pull up your phone and watch the Oscars whenever you want to watch them, I think that'll help viewership. But I am curious about how it affects the way the Oscars are viewed in the industry. Are people going to show up, celebrities and stuff like that, to a show that is not on television, but that's essentially just going to be a big glorified YouTube video? Is that going to affect the turnout for celebrities? Is it going to make this seem less like a really prestigious award show and more like a piece of content being released on the internet? But overall, I am honestly really positive on this. I think it's going to help the show become more international as the nominees are getting more and more international. In Best Picture and Actor, we're going to see maybe like 3, if not 4, foreign films nominated for Best Picture this year. And for until now, the Oscars outside of essentially the continental U.S. were really, really hard to watch, especially live. So getting this to be more of a global ceremony, I think is a really good thing to make this feel like a celebration of film as an art form across the world, not just in Hollywood. That's going to affect the show, I think, in a really positive way. It's going to get more people on the younger side watching this, people who don't really have cable, don't want to sign up for Hulu Live or anything like that. They just want to pull up their phone, an app they already have, and watch. So I think that is going to help younger audiences get into the award show. So I honestly think this is all good. There's sort of like the existentially sad part about it of, oh, we're going from a TV channel to just being a YouTube video, but I don't think that's going to actually affect the content. I think it honestly might even make it better, because I think Google is going to be really investing in this show and making this feel like a really big deal. So you might honestly see the production value of the show go up to an extent. But I think this is going to be a really, really positive change for it. It starts with the 101st Oscars in 2029, and it runs until 2033. So if it goes well, I'm sure they'll up it and do more years, but we at least have a few years of trying out free Oscars. And I hope it's not just the Oscars. I hope it's all the other stuff too. Like they mentioned the governor's ball, but there's other parts of the Oscars that are not televised. You have to rely on the critics or some press people from Variety to tell you what happens at these shows. Maybe now we can get essentially all of that stuff on YouTube. It would be really fun for the awards pundits and stuff like our channel who want to watch the stuff, want to be involved, but don't have the access. Giving us more access is only a good thing. So I think this is really, really good news.
Yeah, not everyone can pay for cable, and I think this is going to reflect that. And I think ultimately, a lot of people don't talk about this, but part of the reason viewership has gone down with the Oscars probably has to do with the fact that not everyone has cable. I mean, most people don't have cable, so it just makes sense. And I think sooner than later, every award show will be, even if it's not on YouTube for free, it'll at least be on a streaming service.
Yeah, EDM mentions that Fox is experimenting with co-live broadcasting for NFL games on Tubi, and viewership increased by 3 million. So that's really, really good stats. And yeah, it's not just the Oscars. NFL is streaming on platforms, UFC, WWE. I've been watching on Netflix. So a lot of these event stuff is going away from the cable platform. And I think cable will still be there in terms of like a public access utility. There's going to be access for news and public service announcements and that kind of stuff. But I'm excited for this change for a lot of reasons. I think one also is that it's going to keep the Oscars. Well, it's actually going to make the Oscars be independent from any Hollywood studio. Right now, they air on ABC, which is owned by Disney, and it doesn't seem like it's affected their nomination process all that much. Like Disney doesn't go in and like sweep the awards all the time or anything like that. But I had a fear like if this goes to HBO Max, is Warner Brothers going to be kind of like leaning on the Oscars to nominate Warner Brothers movies? Is that going to be something that would happen? And now they're going to a channel that is not owned by any studio. So I think that's a really, really good move for the independence of the Academy, and hopefully can keep it so that nominees are spread across studios. Maybe this even gets a chance for a lot of outsider studios to have even bigger of a shot, because maybe YouTube can be more in touch with technology than maybe ABC is. And get some of these movies elevated. I think about stuff like, oh, click now on the screen to add Hamnet to your watch list or whatever. If they can tie in the nominees to the YouTube movie service, that's a really good move too. Like everything that's nominated is going to be on sale for half off during the Oscars or something like that on YouTube. There can be a way to really integrate this with the whole platform, get people watching these movies, get people paying for movies. So I think this is a really exciting move and something that's going to only help the Oscars in my mind.
Yeah, you're right. Leaving ABC means no more Disney.
Yeah, and I wonder who will host now, because Kimmel has essentially been like the staple of their hosting. I'm not sure he'll go host a YouTube show. They'll probably get maybe a YouTuber, maybe somebody within the actual film industry. I've always advocated for the Oscars bringing in like an actor or someone who's actually like a face of Hollywood to do.
Jeff Snyder.
Oh God, imagine that, Jeff Snyder hosting the Oscars.
You can't tell me that wouldn't get the most views ever. He'd say so many controversial things. I mean, I think maybe Matt Pat is a possibility.
That would be so much fun. Could you imagine that? Oh my God.
Imagine they have a Freddy's cameo. Freddy just like walks out of the back curtain. But yeah, I think this really will only be a positive thing. More people will be able to watch it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. And it'll be good for us because we don't have to rush and sign up for some streaming platform to watch the Oscars. We can just stream it. And I also think this will be better. I wonder how they'll be about copyright. Are they going to be more lax in terms of like, oh, you can stream it and react to it? We're not really going to. It's all YouTube, right? If I'm on YouTube and I'm streaming YouTube content, are they really going to copyright strike me? Maybe. Who knows what YouTube? They do whatever they want. But
another good thing is when an awards show just goes on a streaming service, I think with most of them, it goes away after like a couple weeks or so. Like it's not permanently on there. I might be wrong. I think with some of them, it goes away after. But when it's on YouTube, that'll stay up there forever. And there's a problem with if you want to go if you want to go back and watch a ceremony from 1954, you can't really get access to the entire ceremony. You know, history is basically going away. So it'll be a good thing that it'll be on YouTube. It'll always be there.
EDM mentions the fiasco from last time where Hulu cut off a stream before Best Picture was announced. I don't expect YouTube to do the same thing.
Jeez. Do you think? Imagine something like the La La Land thing happens, but it's on YouTube.
Can you imagine the live chat going crazy on the left?
When is that going to happen again? Come on, we need another fake hoax to be set up again.
Transitioning over to YouTube, that could be the perfect time for something crazy to happen. You know, they let security down. Will Smith comes back in, charges the stage one more time.
Yeah, he charges the stage, but then he slaps he slaps Martin. It's actually an act.
You want to switch over to something we've already talked about a little bit, but Avatar: Fire and Ash has arrived in theaters. Reception is kind of mixed. It's still positive. It was at 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, but that feels like a bit of a mixed bag, right? And I think reception generally has been, hey, it's an Avatar movie. It's giving you more of Avatar, but it's not going to do anything to lure in new fans. It's not going to hook somebody who's on the edge of being out on this franchise. And at this point, I'm a little bit curious how the box office is going to do, because my theater had people there, but it wasn't like to the brim packed with people. And I think once word of mouth gets out that this is an okay Avatar movie, do you think that's going to affect how this movie performs over the next few weeks?
Yeah, I saw that they're looking at a $380 million opening weekend worldwide, which is, solid. It's not the thing is the last one had great legs, so people kept coming back to see it. But with this one, if the reception is mixed, if the word of mouth is not the greatest, then is it going to have those legs? I don't think so.
Yeah, because I saw the last one a handful of times in the theater, at least like maybe 3 times, and that's a long movie. And this one, I don't really feel like going and seeing again. But we'll talk about something in a second that might encourage repeated viewings. But I am really curious how this affects the Oscars as well, because both this and Wicked for Good have kind of underperformed critically. So I think those bottom 2 slots on your award predictions, you got to start thinking of what else can go in there, because without the wow factor of the previous Avatar, I don't think this gets in the Best Picture. And
yeah, I
think you got to start getting some slots for something else. They could both easily miss. Right?
Yeah.
And I think there's no one to go there and say Avatar: Fire and Ash, that was the best movie of the year. There's nobody fighting for it to that level. So I think it could really fall quick. And everyone's already putting out their top 20 lists and that kind of stuff. And Avatar is not really in any of them. So I can see this movie making a good amount of money, being liked kind of by the audiences, but not really having any impact beyond that.
The one thing I always hate about award season is everyone puts out their best of list in the middle of December, end of December, but there's always still 1 or 2 more awards films to come out in January. So I'm like, well, what if I really absolutely love The Testament of Anne Lee? You know, it was written by Brady Corbet. There's a chance. So it's like, I guess I got to put on my list now, and then if I love it, add it on there later.
EDM points out something that I think is interesting. I would have to check the dates on this, but he says that Will Smith's 10-year ban ends when YouTube takes over the Oscars. So maybe we will see a Will Smith return. The snap blew up Twitter.
Wait,
it would make record numbers.
Doesn't YouTube start in 2029?
What was that, 2020 or was that 2021?
What, Will Smith?
The slap. When was that haunted slap?
That was actually 2022.
So he'll have a year or two left when YouTube takes over.
Years left. But when he comes back, it'll be on YouTube. Imagine they actually set it up like as a skit where he does it again.
Imagine if the slap happened on YouTube. You think the video would be pulled down for like violence? You know, they would deport themselves.
They'll say it's hate speech, but if a white guy did the same thing, they'll actually applaud it.
Oh god, who knows? Maybe Will Smith will come back for the YouTube. He was in the YouTube Rewind, and he has a popular YouTube channel, so Will Smith could host the Oscars.
Wait, can you imagine his first year back? He hosts the Oscars.
Now that would be fun.
He hosts it, and then they do a bit where Chris Rock comes up and slaps him. He says, "I don't like the joke you made to me, so this is what you get."
See, I think that's something they could do. You know, I think they would, by that point, they could lean into it and make a joke out of it. The two of them go up on stage, hug it out or something, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Bel Air just ended and they straight up acknowledge it. He's like that the Bel Air finale ends with actual Will Smith talking to young Will Smith, and he's like, "You're gonna make some mistakes, you're gonna do some dumb things," and then he winks at the camera.
Oh,
he might as well have just like looked at you and winked.
We talked about Avatar Fire and Ash maybe struggling to get the legs moving at the box office. Do you think that Doomsday teaser is going to help it at all? They announced, I don't know if it's been announced or just like leaked through the press or whatever, but Doomsday has had not just one, it's not just two, not just three, but 4 teasers for Avengers Doomsday a year in advance.
Yeah.
They showed one today prior to Avatar. It was very short. It was like a minute and a half or something, and it showed a returning character. So I'm assuming that all 4 of these trailers are going to show off a new returning character. But a quick little tease for Avengers Doomsday. We are going to spoil it, I guess, but there's nothing to really spoil in here. You know, it's a character who's back that wasn't on the cast list. So if you're trying to go into it totally blind, I guess you can click off. But everyone's talking about it. All right, yeah. So how are you feeling about this Doomsday teaser? Tell us who came back, first of all, and then tell us what you thought of the teaser, what you think of this character was being back.
The character who was wrong in Civil War. Tony was the right one. Tony was right. Libertarianism is so back. We don't care about Captain America. Yeah, Steve Rogers is back. I guess Anthony Mackie is not Captain America anymore. He's back and he's holding a baby. Whose baby is this? Is it the baby from the new Rowan Atkinson show, A Man vs. Baby? But yeah, you know, it's a teaser that shows Captain America is back. Then that's it. I mean, it does what it needs to do. Tells you Captain America is back. Clearly, they did this because they need as many people to see this movie as possible. They want people to know that Steve Rogers, Captain America, the original Captain America, is back for this movie. And I'm sure there are people who fell off of Marvel that when they see that, they're like, "Oh, I guess I'll have to watch this one."
Yeah, I think it's notable that it says Steve Rogers is back in Doomsday, not Captain America. So I don't know if he'll take on that mantle in this movie, but it definitely reminds you that Steve is back. He's got like a red, white, and blue helmet on, kind of a red, white, and blue American bike. He looks good, and I think it gives you a good timeline on when this is taking place. Looks like it's going to be like the 70s maybe in terms of how old he is, and the baby is interesting because Steve Rogers has had a child a handful of times in the comics who have gone on to various different places in their arcs, have gone on to become bad guys, gone to become good guys. So I can see this child being an important part of this multiverse saga wrapping up. Like if Steve stays with his son, does he become a good guy? If he leaves, does his son go evil? I think that's an interesting question. And people have also been like, why is Steve not becoming involved throughout history? Why is he not saving people? Why is he not doing this or that? And having a family could be why. Maybe he has this kid and changes his perspective. He's like, I'm not the savior of this world. I'm the savior of this family, right? He focuses on his child, his world, his wife. And that can be a reason that he's not involved in all of these globe shrouding adventures throughout these decades. And I really am curious to see how this child plays into Doomsday, because more than Steve being back, the child is the big reveal of this trailer, that him and Peggy, presumably Peggy, have a kid. And how's that kid going to interact with this plot?
Could his child be Doctor Doom?
That could be something. Like if Doctor Doom is coming back through the past to change his own timeline or create a paradox loop or something along those lines, that could be possible.
There is a connection to Kang with that theory, because I know in the comics, there's a version in the comics where like Kang is actually like a descendant of Reed Richards, so they could sort of do that with Doctor Doom. I mean, it's a crazy theory, but I mean, who knows? I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen in this movie, right? Nobody knows. And there's so many actors that are probably in the movie that were not in that chair reveal. But I also think it is a possibility in terms of Steve that he doesn't actually leave that timeline. Like maybe we only see Steve in that timeline, and maybe he doesn't reunite with the Avengers.
Yeah, I'm really curious because Avengers Endgame does wrap up Steve's storyline to an extent, but I think it leaves plenty of room for him to come back and be in the plot again. There's unanswered questions in terms of like what happened to the Infinity Stones. How did Steve get his shield? He didn't have a shield, and then all of a sudden he shows up with a shield at the end of Endgame, and you're like, where did that shield come from? And there's some little threads that I could see them pulling on and being like, okay, we're going to explain where Cap got this shield. We're going to explain, how he got to that bench where he was sitting. And it's also notable when you watch that scene and Sam Wilson sees Cap's wedding ring and he says, oh, are you going to tell me about her? And Steve says, no, I don't think you will. And there's almost like this gleam in his eye of like, maybe if I tell you, something will go wrong. Like he could know in the future that you're going to find out anyway. So I'm not going to tell you now because, I remember 30 years ago when he came to my house and we met. So I'm going to let you find that out yourself, Sam.
Well, there also could be a thing where you do see him in current time, but you see the old version and he's telling them about these things that happened back then and how we need to stop them or, whatever. But
my biggest theory still is that Doom shows up at this house, either kills Peggy, takes the baby, something along those lines, and by doing that, totally ruptures time. Now Steve Rogers is not going to show up at the end of Endgame. All this stuff kind of implodes on itself. But I also think it's notable. You mentioned people who have checked out since Endgame or close to it. This essentially picks up like where Endgame ended. It's like, oh, Steve's in this house with Peggy. We're picking up from right here. Like, you don't even really got to know what's happening in the multiverse saga to figure out what's happening in this movie. We promise. So I think more than anything, this is going to feel like a sequel to Endgame. And that's what this teaser showed me, is that we're following up directly from where Endgame left off, not really from any of this other stuff going on in the multiverse. We're picking up from what you remember happened in Endgame. So it's going to be a good jumping on point for, I think, people who you mentioned are done with MCU and they watch this trailer, maybe the next couple of teasers, and it focuses on those returning characters. I wonder who these next three are going to be. That's what I want to kind of end this conversation on is, what do you think these next three teasers are there? Are they just going to be, here's Thor, here's, Hawkeye, or are they going to reveal something like, here's the X-Men,
Well, I feel like I shouldn't comment because I've already seen the rumors of what they are.
That I haven't seen, but I was seeing rumors for a while they were going to focus like a one on each universe, and it doesn't seem like that's the case now because we got one of Steve Rogers.
But if I were to predict, not knowing, my predictions would probably be, X-Men, Fantastic Four, and then Doctor Doom.
Yeah, I would think the last one is Doctor Doom. I'd even wonder if the last one is like an actual teaser. Like we get these 1 minute, 90-second things, and then the fourth one is, okay, here's like an actual teaser for Doomsday where we're getting like a little sense of the plot.
How are you going to go about watching them? Are you going to like use your AMC A-list to get an Avatar ticket but then not stay for the movie? Or are you going to just try to sneak into one? Are you going to just watch it on your iPhone?
I would never sneak into a movie. Me? Oh my! You must pay for all tickets, Ari. Come on. Oh, I'll probably sneak into the movie, but
You're gonna pay for Five Nights at Freddy's 2 round 9 and then just walk into Avatar for a minute.
That's probably what I will do. I'll probably get a ticket for FNAF or for something else, and then I'll just go see the first few minutes of Avatar, especially because I know these teasers are going to be like a minute long. So realistically, if I watch it on my phone, I'm not really going to like miss out on an experience. You know, this is not like a full trailer with a big reveal in it or anything like that. So I'm not going to cry if I see it on my phone for the first time, but I am excited for them though. Like that countdown clock at the end where it's like, okay, 12 months, and then it's just counting down by the second to when Doomsday is coming out. And I'm like, man, it's really a year, less than a year.
That makes me think that there's essentially no chance that the movie gets moved.
No, they wouldn't move it after that.
No, they've already done the trailers. It was something like Spider-Man. If they wanted to move that a few weeks, they can do that because there's no trailer, there's no poster. Like with the Odyssey, that movie, not in a million years, is moving because they have that set, they have that, they've had posters, they've now essentially had 2 trailers. And speaking of, something that played before Avatar, we should move on to that. We should move on to that Odyssey prologue.
Yeah, we've got a lot of trailers to talk about. Do you want to start with the Odyssey, or do you want to save the Odyssey? Because there's a few trailers I want to bring up first.
Let's just get into the Odyssey.
Yeah, let's go for the Odyssey. The Odyssey showed a prologue prior to Avatar. Another was a longer prologue before the 70mm screenings of one battle after another in Sinners. I think this was a shortened version of that prologue, but it's essentially the story that everybody knows from Greek mythology, right? The Trojan horse. They all get inside of a horse, then they give it. You start with essentially the horse being surrendered outside the gates, and them taking this horse into the city, and you're inside the horse. You're with Matt Damon and following him, like scrunched up with all these guys inside the Trojan horse, sweating and falling over, and then the doors open up. They come out of the Trojan horse and they go on a presumed killing spree. And there's almost like this Darth Vader and cool, badass guy walking down. Like all of these charging soldiers are coming through, and there's like this black soldier walking through the middle. Like, oh, this is going to be the badass guy. But yeah, it shows you the Trojan horse, and that's kind of how the Odyssey, the story, the beginning of the Odyssey is like the Trojan horse happens, and then he's on his way home from that battle. So it's cool to see the Trojan horse portrayed. I thought it was really, really well done. And in terms of a trailer for the Odyssey, it made me really excited. It was so tense and it was so thrilling. And it reminded me of like the best moments of Game of Thrones, the best moments of Lord of the Rings. And the action in this is great, but I was also thinking about how small scale it actually is in terms of what's happening on the screen. Like one couple of guys fight a couple of guys. What's it going to be like when you get to the third act of this, right? Like what is Nolan's Helm's Deep battle look like in this movie? What is Nolan going completely off going to look like if this is a prologue and this is how cool it looks? This is how engaging it looked. Like when they cut to that title card, I like let out a breath. I was like, oh man, I was like holding my breath throughout the entirety of this thing.
See, you said it was just a few guys fighting a few guys. When I was watching it didn't feel like that to me. It felt epic. It felt like are we back? Has cinema after maybe the disappointment of Avatar, is Nolan going to save us all?
I can't wait to see what he does. It feels like a great mix of that like really visceral moment-to-moment action of Dunkirk, where like the technicality of the action in that movie is so thrilling. And if you can get that technicality of that action and fill it with characters that people are really, really invested in and stories that feel mythic and epic and large scale in scope, you could have a genuinely just masterpiece level film on your hand, especially you're exploring Greek mythology, something that hasn't really been explored on the big screen in a really, really long time to this scale. You have to go back decades to get to a Greek mythology film at this scale being told at the studio system. So I cannot believe how good this looked, and I'm just really, really excited to see it.
When was the last time this story was actually told in the film by like a major filmmaker?
I'd really have to look back, but it's when you go back to like some of the old Hollywood days, they told similar Greek epics once in a while, but they often did not perform well at the box office. There'd be like one hit, and then they'd try and do a couple of other Greek myth movies, and they wouldn't really hit, right? So it hasn't ever really taken off in terms of a bunch of movies happening. You know, there's like Roman epics here and there, but it was never a big trend.
This is going to make so much money. I mean, the Oppenheimer almost made $1 billion, and that's just like a Nolan like drama. I mean, it's amazing, but if you think it's something that's actually going to have battles and action, and this sort of like Lord of the Rings type movie has so much appeal, it has so much modern appeal. it had appeal 20 years ago, but I feel like it still does a lot. So I think this thing will easily crack $1 billion faster than Oppenheimer came close to. And who knows? People call Oppenheimer his masterpiece. Maybe this will be better.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely be more accessible. And if like Oppenheimer already made $1 billion, and this is going to be much more of a mainstream appealing action oriented movie. So this could be just a humongous hit for him.
And Nolan and Cameron share this in common. They have so much international appeal, not just in the United States. So I think that this thing's gonna make so much money, and I think Nolan is such a good fit. You think of him as sort of a realistic director, but he also, I think, is a great fit for something mythical like this. When he goes in sort of the myth making stuff in his other movies, like even in The Dark Knight Rises, when they're talking about these characters as if they're legends, he's so good at portraying that type of thing. And then you add on the cast. I mean, this is going to be insane. We're going to get to see John Bernthal and Tom Holland co-star in a movie twice in July. So this is going to be an experience.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where it goes with all these characters. It's such a grand scale with so many characters you can bring into it, and the cast is huge. So I really think this is going to be a big hit, and I love the footage, like the element of like these guys seem heroic and badass, but at the end, like they're going in to do something that is actually pretty terrible. Like they're gonna go kill a bunch of like women and children in this city, and I feel like there's an element of like history being written by the victor, and like the myth makers being able to tell you, we're the big good guys. Everybody else, they're the bad guys, and I wonder how much they're going to explore like the morality of war happening at this scale. I think that could be something really interesting for Nolan to get into. EDM has a lot of thoughts on the Odyssey prologue. The Odyssey prologue in 70mm IMAX was epic. Never seen an entire audience burst into applause for a trailer. Hell, today's Avatar 3 ending only had a couple of people clapping, mostly silence.
Okay.
Yeah, I was much more enthralled by the trailer for the Odyssey than I was through most of Avatar 3, I will say.
Come on, EDM. You don't have to rub it in like that.
EDM wanted to scream, Nolan is cinema, but they're an introvert, so they couldn't scream it. They made an early bet today that the Odyssey is going to win for best makeup. The practical effects on the Cyclops looked amazing. That's a very, very good bet. I think Odyssey is going to be a huge sweeper at the Oscars, especially in the technical categories. Just in this prologue could win Oscars. Like if this was a short film in the Oscars this year, it would be winning every short category. But
do you think Cyclops is Batman?
I think so. I think that was the rumor, but I don't actually know for sure. Did you see a shot of Cyclops in the trailer, or was EDM just going off to something else?
I think it might have been. I think it might have been in the trailer.
You know what? I'm pretty sure it was because the prologue ended and then it kind of showed a trailer afterwards, and then I think you saw the Cyclops in that.
I can totally hear Robert Pattinson doing a Cyclops voice.
I can't wait for this, dude. It's easily at my top of the list in terms of anticipated movies for next year. More than Doomsday, more than Dune, more than a lot of stuff we're going to talk about later. This, if hit right, is going to be like so much my shit. I won't even be able to express it. Like, go for it, Nolan. Make this great. You can do it.
How many times will you be doing that Spider-Man Odyssey double feature?
Oh man, if they both are great, I'll be there every day.
Ludwig Göransson Odyssey and Michael Giacchino Spider-Man.
You want to talk about any of the other trailers for this week? Did you see the trailer for The Pit season 2 yet? I know you're a big fan of The Pit.
I did. It's a good trailer. It lets me know what's going to happen. It looks like more of what we got in season 1. It looks really good.
Yeah, I love season 1. I haven't seen the trailer just yet for season 2, but if it's as good as season 1, that thing's going to be amazing.
Well, we have the reverse of that because I have not seen the Disclosure trailer, and I believe you have.
Yeah, I really was looking forward to this Disclosure trailer. It's Spielberg doing a thriller about the release of alien information and kind of the arrival of aliens on the Earth, potentially. There's a really, really scary kind of through line of this trailer. Emily Blunt is a weather person announcing the weather for the normal, daily routine, and she gets what seems like possessed by an alien in the middle of her giving this announcement, and she's kind of like stuttering and speaking and kind of like making these weird sounds that almost sound inhuman, like gurgles throughout the trailer. You can never understand what she's saying, but her kind of like trying to gurgle out these words is like this horror tension through line throughout this whole trailer. And as I was watching it, I was thinking like, is this going to be a Spielberg horror movie? This feels very, very
Yeah,
horror inspired.
that's what I was about to ask. Is this going to be a fucking horror movie?
It was genuinely a pretty scary trailer for at least parts of it. And there's like shots that very much feel out of Signs, you know, like the big crop circles and that kind of stuff. It also has like those Spielbergian uplifting moments that I feel you can see in the trailer where they're going to have like moments of faith and people kind of thinking like, okay, if God is real and there's aliens are real, like what does that mean about my beliefs? There's going to be a lot of exploring of that. Spielberg has examined faith in a lot of his best works. So this feels to me like a good throwback to what he's done before with a lot of horror energy that I was not expecting.
When this comes out, we got to do Steven Spielberg Alien quadruple feature. This will be his fourth Alien film after E.T., Close Encounters, War of the Worlds, and now Disclosure.
I can't wait for it. And EDM said there was mixed reception to the trailer online, but I was really impressed by it. It feels like classic Spielberg with a lot of injections of modern day commentary and stuff that's going to be pretty relevant, I think, to the next year. You know, it's been more and more conversation about UFO disclosure and aliens and that kind of stuff in the news the last few years. So this feels very relevant. Did you see the trailer for Digger?
Yeah, I did. I watched the teaser. See, this is not what I expected because when it was first announced, I thought it would be a serious drama, but they're calling it a comedy, which is interesting. It's a good teaser, I guess. Doesn't really show you a lot, just tells you basically what the movie's going to be about. I am excited at the idea of Tom Cruise being in a comedy, though.
Yeah, this is a movie from Alejandro Iñárritu, who directed Birdman. And yeah, Tom Cruise. I honestly wasn't like 100% sure this movie because I was doing my list for next year, and I was like, "Is this?" I haven't heard that much about this movie with Tom Cruise and Iñárritu. I wonder if this is happening, next year. And then all of a sudden, there was a teaser before Avatar, and I said, "Oh, I guess it is happening." It doesn't tell you much, but it is funny. You get Tom Cruise like in his underwear dancing on like a pole or something like that, and I was like, "Oh!" And they say a comedy from Iñárritu, so I'm really looking forward to what that means. I want to see Tom Cruise. He hasn't been in a comedy in I feel like a little while. I think about like,
are we actually gonna get an Oscar-winning comedy again?
I would love to see it. You know, Iñárritu's last movie, he said it was a comedy and did not do well. But this seems like it at least is going to have that Tom Cruise appeal. Tom Cruise, Jesse Plemons, those are going to be people who the Oscars love. John Goodman is in it. Riz Ahmed. That is something that I think can really fill this movie out and make it be something that people are paying attention to. Sandra Hüller, like those are people that are going to be potential for Oscar nominations. So I think this is definitely going to be more of an on the radar movie than his last movie was. But yeah, the comedy tag, it makes it interesting.
Oh, his last movie was that weird Netflix
movie. Bardo. Right?
Did you see it?
I did see Bardo. I kind of liked Bardo, but you got to be in on this like bizarre, self-indulgent photography if you want to watch Bardo. EDM mentions that Disclosure felt like an M. Night Shyamalan more than Spielberg, and I feel like in your mind that's an insult. In my mind, that's a compliment. I watched that trailer and I'm like, this feels like peak Spielberg. People were when Spielberg was coming out, they were like, oh, he's the next Hitchcock. He's the next Spielberg.
Is that a bad thing?
I think this is showing us like what M. Night would have been doing if he was like working at this level still.
He is. Did you not see? Did you guys not see Trap?
EDM says if Birdman and Keaton is a comedy, Digger and Cruise, I'm in. Yeah, I really like Iñárritu's work, so I can't wait to see what he does next. Any other trailers you want to talk about? The Mando and Grogu trailer, I swear that was like an extended trailer, but maybe I just like don't remember that trailer very well. For the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah, see, it felt like at the beginning it was something different, but no, I think that was the same. I think it was mostly the same trailer. Yeah, it looks okay.
Looks all right, and I hope it's great, man. Star Wars is back next year. It's got to feel like an event. It already feels like we're moving past it. We're already talking about Avengers. We're already talking about Spider-Man. Star Wars is still got to come out first.
Another Sigourney Weaver Disney movie.
Any other trailers that dropped this week? Did you notice anything that I haven't written down? Because that was my whole list.
I don't think there was anything else.
All right, we'll move on from the trailer talk. Let's do some quick Batman rumor roundup. It seems like every day we're getting something from the DC rumor mill. And the latest rumor mill has been around. We talked last week about Scarlett Johansson potentially joining the Batman Part 2. We were talking about how crazy that name is. Who's she going to play? We were throwing out a lot of different love interests for Batman she could be playing. It turns out, according to at least Jeff Snyder, I believe it was Jeff, that she'll be playing Harvey Dent's wife, who is a minor in terms of like presence in the comic in Long Halloween, but she is a pretty major part of the plot itself in Long Halloween. So it sounds like, at least from that headline, they might be doing more Long Halloween adaptation in the second Batman movie. They already leaned into it in the first one. They had it set on and around Halloween. They had kind of like that structure slightly to it, but I'd be more into them doing almost like a trilogy of Long Halloween, exploring the themes of that throughout these three movies. But what do you think about Scarlett Johansson's role potentially being confirmed as Harvey Dent's wife? Do you think that means she's going to be expanding that role? I would assume it's not going to be like a couple of scene character for Scarlett Johansson. But
Yeah, well, Jeff Snyder said that what he's heard is they're casting 3 roles: Gilda Gold, Scarlett Johansson, and then Harvey. They're looking for a 40-ish-year-old actor for Harvey Dent, then a 60-year-old-ish actor for Harvey Dent's father. And we had that Brad Pitt rumor last week that was actually debunked by a few really reliable people in the industry. So it sounds like Brad Pitt maybe was in talks at one point, but it didn't happen. But my guess is if he was, that they were talking to him for Harvey Dent's father, not Harvey Dent, because Brad Pitt is like 61, so they're probably not going to have him be Harvey Dent. So that's interesting. But when I hear that, I think, you know who'd be interesting to play Harvey Dent's father, who kind of has that, like he's a really handsome looking guy, is George Clooney, who was in Batman in the 90s as Batman. Wouldn't it be fun to see him play a more darker, more sinister character, see him play, Harvey Dent's father, this corrupt guy? I think that would be, an interesting direction for him to go in. But yeah, I don't particularly love Scarlett Johansson's actress. I don't think she's really gotten the opportunity, though, to spread her wings a lot. She's great in Marriage Story, but besides that, we haven't seen her really get to do something. So I'm curious to see what she can do when she's given some great, dark material. I saw some people speculating maybe they'll gender swap and have Gilda Gold become Two-Face, but I'm not sure that they will do that. I think they're just going to have her have a big role with him, becoming Two-Face. And how do they handle the Two-Face storyline when, he has a wife, he has a father? I think that actually gives a new spin to the Two-Face storyline and makes it more interesting. We're not just doing it again, but I also do hope that he has that relationship with Bruce. He has that friendship, and they show the heartbreak when it actually does happen.
yeah, I really think they will, especially if they're going off of Long Halloween. That's a pretty central element of the Long Halloween. But I'm really excited to see this movie. It feels unreal, and then all of a sudden these casting alerts start coming out, and you say, "Oh, I guess it's happening." I feel like I had my guard up for so long about this movie that I just was assuming it was not happening, and then I guess it is happening, and I'm getting really excited for it. It seems like it's going to be a great time.
If Jeff is right, then I would guess we get Harvey and Harvey's father casting in not far away at all.
Yeah, they're going to be shooting sooner than later, so they're going to have to get this casting out there. Let's move on to some quick headlines here. We've covered a lot of the big banner news of the year or of the day, but doesn't mean there's nothing else to talk about. It seems like the news never stops, so let's get through some stuff before we've got to stop. Updating on the WB deal. WB has declined the hostile Paramount bid, and it seems like Netflix is being pushed up here. It's Netflix's award to lose, as they say, so it looks like it's going to be going the next step here. Paramount will not be the ones to halt Netflix. They still have to go through the government. They still have to go through a lot of barriers to get this thing done, but the Paramount barrier has been lifted. It sounds like they saw a lot more value in Netflix than they saw in Paramount.
Clearly they did, if they're turning down essentially $30 billion more dollars.
I think a lot of it came down to job loss. If Paramount took over Warner Brothers, a lot of jobs would be lost because it would just be a ton of redundancy. Whereas Netflix would a significantly less job loss. There's always going to be some job loss, something like this, but a lot less job loss on the Netflix side. So I think that may have been a big factor. But I'm kind of happy Paramount didn't take it over, and especially we talk about this next Warner Brothers headline. It seems like Warner Brothers may end up in a pretty good spot if they're at Netflix and kind of being left alone more so than becoming like a big thing in the middle of Paramount's pot. You want to talk about this Neon headline? The Neon marketing team, I think last week or so, announced that they were leaving the team behind stuff like Long Legs and Parasite, and even Shelby Oaks, I would say, had like really interesting marketing campaigns that made a lot of impact in how the movie performed, how the movie was talked about. And stuff like Long Legs, the marketing was talked about more than even the movie was talked about. People were like, "Man, you got to call this number. You got to talk to Nicolas Cage. You got to see these headlines, these posters. What's going on with this movie, Long Legs?" So that marketing team has left Neon, and we're now getting reports that they have moved from Neon to Warner Brothers. Not just marketing for Warner Brothers, they're starting their own label at Warner Brothers. It's going to be focused on smartly budgeted theatrical releases with unique marketing campaigns, is what they say. So theatrical release, that sounds like a great move to me. It sounds like a sign that Warner Brothers is not moving out of the theatrical business. They're investing in it, right? So even if Netflix takes them over, they're still, from what it seems like, interested in theatrically released movies. And these guys know how to take a movie and have it be a really, really small budget and make it into a cultural event. We talked about how going to the theater has to feel like an event. It has to feel like something special. It has to feel like if you don't go, you're missing out. And I think movies like Long Legs and especially Parasite, they made it feel that way. Like when you saw all those trailers for Parasite, all those trailers for Long Legs, you were like, I've got to know what this movie's about. I've got to go see it. And I've got to see it before somebody spoils it for me. So they can bring that kind of energy to Warner Brothers, a whole new label at Warner Brothers. This feels like a really strong investment in the theatrical side of the movie industry. How do you feel, Ari?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting movie. Leaving one of the biggest, one of the leading independent film studios for something like Warner Brothers. I think it's a sign of people see Warner Brothers going in a good direction. That's a place they want to be at. A few years ago, Warner Brothers was not in a place like this, and it seems like things are looking better than they have in quite a while for Warner Brothers.
Yeah, it's really good news for Warner Brothers. It's probably not good news for Neon. I wonder what they're going to do to fill that gap because the marketing
Yeah.
around Neon has been so significant. It's been part of their success. A24 has been, the theater that's talked, the studio that's talked about a lot as the indie studio, but realistically, it's been Neon that's been doing a lot of the biggest hits, a lot of the best awards campaigns, a lot of the most successful releases, and have been Neon releases. So I hope that they can continue that and you don't just see like essentially A24 become the only indie studio that will really exist on that level, and Neon just kind of falls off. I like that there's essentially these two dueling dragons of like big indie studios right now that are both doing really well. So I hope Neon can find some other great marketing team to do it. I'm sure they can, right? Everyone wants to work at the cool indie studio, so I'm sure they'll find some cool people to hire.
Could you see if Ari Aster has another failure and then he's essentially A24 is done? Could you see Warner Brothers scooping him up because they're like, well, he's somewhat, he has some level of a fan base.
Yeah, and I think if you take Ari Aster and you rain down the budget, that's an easy hit maker right there. You just say, from the
Yeah.
director of Hereditary and Midsommar comes this, and people will go see it. All right, what else do we got? Sony has bought the Peanuts for a whopping $457 million. That is a lot of money to spend on the Peanuts, who are not a particularly active brand, but it feels like you can do a lot with that. Sony has a good animation side of the studio. I'm sure they'll make a bunch of shows, a bunch of movies, and push them all onto Netflix, and then it'll be a good buy for them. But Ari, are you hyped for the return of the Peanuts? Are you going to be there for all these new Peanuts? This wave of Peanuts movies.
Yeah, I'm actually really into the Peanuts lore. I mean, that's essentially what I do all day is listen to podcasts, watch shows on YouTube. I just saw Matt Pat do a breakdown of the new Peanuts anthology series. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know much about this
I've
world.
seen some of the classics, so I recognize the Peanuts characters, but I'm not super attached. I think my parents are really big Peanuts fans.
Oh,
This is a boomer investment, maybe.
Um, I don't think we were set to talk about this, but there were a few photos released from Daredevil Born Again. Season
Oh yeah, you tell
2.
me how you felt about that. We had
Yeah,
a
we got a
first look at some
first,
good stuff.
finally, in a official first look at Jessica Jones, Daredevil. Get a good shot of them. Pretty exciting. The Defenders are finally gonna come back. It's very exciting news. And then we got a first look at Matthew Lillard. It's a shot of um, Kingpin, and there's a woman, and then he's across the table, and he looks to be in the position his body is making. It looks like he thinks he has power, like over Kingpin or something. So I'm
Interesting.
interested to see him in a potentially villainous role, because he has never done that before. There's never been a series of video game movies where he was allegedly playing a villain. So I'm I'm really looking forward to seeing this. I
I'm
mean,
happy to see the Matthew Lillard comeback happening. You know, he's in 2 great
yeah,
video game adaptations. He's going to be in a Scream movie next year. He's got Scream, and he's
he's got
got
Carrie.
Daredevil in the same year.
He's got Carrie coming.
And he's got Carrie. I don't think that'll be next year, but that'll be pretty soon.
Yeah, but
I'm happy for him. I really like Matthew Lillard. Unlike Quentin Tarantino, I'm a fan of Matthew Lillard. So I'm happy to see him doing well. And, you know, he always comes back, you know?
he always comes back.
All right. Speaking of something that might not be coming back, I know we're
Oh,
both big fans of the Megan franchise, especially Megan 2.0. We both were big defenders of that failed release. It looks like that franchise might be dead because there was a spinoff, Soulmate, set to be released in just like 2 weeks or something like close to it, early January. And we were making note in a previous episode that there's no poster, there's no trailer, there's been nothing for this movie, Soulmate. Where's that? And I guess it's nowhere because Blumhouse has pulled it from the release schedule with no new date. In fact, they're selling it. They're shopping it around. We'll
oh
see if
boy,
another streamer
that's
buys
rough.
it up or another studio buys it up. But you buy up a Megan spinoff, what is that going to look like? Are you going to have to go in there and like edit out any of the Megan like lore connective stuff and just make it like evil sex style movie or something like that? Like that could be fun, but we've seen so many of those already, right? So I can see why this is being canceled, not just because Megan 2.0 flopped really embarrassingly, but also because this premise is pretty well worn. So I'm bummed. I was looking forward to it as a lover of Megan 2.0, but I'm not super surprised because there was nothing out about this movie. So I hope
I'm
somebody
not.
buys it up so I can see it, but
I'm
I'm not
not.
going to see it soon.
I'm not sure if we were going to get the best movie, if I'm being honest.
No.
But who knows? It could have been a Found It's Freddy situation where it's so bad and you just want to see it over and over. But yeah, this franchise is gone.
You mentioned you had a Godzilla headline you wanted to talk about. I don't really know what you're talking about. So what is your Godzilla
Oh
headline?
my god, this is an absolute insane headline. So they they just announced that Monarch Legacy of Monsters is getting a prequel series about the Kurt Russell character, but it's gonna be Wyatt Russell, and I guess it's gonna be after. It's either after the events we've seen in the flashbacks, or it's a prequel to the events we've seen in the flashbacks. But very, very bizarre story. You're doing more. What is the point of this? I don't really understand. This is very bizarre.
A spinoff of a show that no one really liked that much. That was kind of boring. I'm pretty much not sold on this. I mean, I like Wyatt Russell a lot. I would like to see a show about him fighting monsters or whatever, but a spinoff of this like sleep inducer, I don't know. How is it going to be better than the previous version of this?
The writer of Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to be the showrunner, so don't worry, we're fine.
Oh, we're in good hands. We're in good hands. I hope there's a chase where Godzilla chases like a little girl through a forest and they can't get her. You know, he's like, how am I going to get this child? I can't reach.
Deadline says the new spin-off series will follow the story of Colonel Lee Shaw, an American operative who, the same character. I could not feel more privileged to be part of building out this wildly iconic universe, Harold shared. Apple and Legendary have been exemplary partners throughout this process, and I don't even know what to say. This is just bizarre.
I like Godzilla movies. I think last year, the year before, I went to the Godzilla movie marathon. They showed like a 20 or whatever, the whole Showa era, all in a row. I stayed up all day watching those things and all night. So I like monsters fighting monsters and killing people and stuff, but this legendary side of it is just not really working for
Yeah,
me, and these spin-offs are not doing it.
it really seems like where the Godzilla franchise is currently is that Hollywood wants to sort of recreate the magic they've created over in Japan, but they can't really. I mean, they can make these fun Saturday morning cartoons, Godzilla vs. Kong movies, but really, Godzilla minus one, that side of it is the ones that are going to be actual good movies.
Yeah, I know there's a sequel or a prequel or something coming out for that, so I'm sure that'll be a big hit. You want to talk about Barack Obama's top 10 movies of 2025?
Is Megan 2.0 on there?
Sadly, did not make the list. Unfortunately, sometimes he throws some like zingers in here. He's got like a banger or two. This year, kind of a boring list. I won't lie to you, but I'll read it out to you. No Eddington. I was kind of hoping for Eddington. That could have been his little zinger, his little swing, But he went one battle after another at number 1. Sinners at number 2. It Was Just an Accident. Hamnet. Sentimental Value. No Other Choice. The Secret Agent. Train Dreams. Your favorite film of the year, Jay Kelly. Good Fortune. And Orwell 2 + 2 = 5. Good Fortune is kind of a swing. I didn't expect Good Fortune to show up on the Obama list.
Barack really did have no other choice.
He's just a big Keanu fan, I guess. He loves Aziz Ansari.
I did hear that was really good.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that. So, but it's funny in the lineup here that he threw in Good Fortune. He had to throw one of those populist picks in there.
Did Donald Trump release his list?
No list of Donald Trump yet. If you go to Angel Studios and just list like the list of productions,
it'll be every Angel Studios release.
I think it's funny that Obama put one battle after another at number 1 and Sinners at number 2. And there's all this discourse about Sinners and being on lists and not being on lists. And is it going to win? Is it going to lose Best Picture and why?
If you don't give Sinners a 5 out of 5, someone will send the Y'all Klan meme.
I can't believe Obama didn't be like, you know what? Let's just do Sinners number 1, even for the optics, you just can't just put Sinners up there. It's a good list. It's always fun to see what he puts out. I'm sure he doesn't watch a lot of these. Maybe he does, but I'm betting these are done by like a PR team or something like that. But he puts out this list, puts out like a playlist of like his famous songs or favorite songs every year. Right? Those are kind of fun to look through. But this essentially is just like the Best Picture nominees. Like he essentially just like filled out a preferential EDM said the same thing. Obama's looks like a preferential ballot. He might be getting the Academy. The production company has won an Oscar, so maybe Obama is a voting member of the Academy. This is his Best Picture lineup right here, but fun headline. Anything else you want to talk about this week? I don't know what else we really had going on.
Did Bill put out his list?
No Bill list. He just said Lolita. Anything you can find with like an underage actress in it. Big fan of Euphoria.
He's like, I've heard that Euphoria show is pretty hot. I mean, he's heard it's pretty good.
He's seen some scenes, I'm sure. Oh god, we got to get out here before we get in trouble. Any other headlines you want to talk about or bring up?
No, but I'd like to bring up It Welcome to Derry concluded its first season and teased more as it ends and says, It Welcome to Derry Chapter 1. I did like the series overall. The finale I really enjoyed. It had some wild stuff happening in there. I did not know this, apparently, unless critic Dan Merle is spreading lies. He said Dick Halloran, the character from The Shining who's in this, actually is technically in the It book. He says that in the It book, when they talk about the Black Spot Fire, which is what happens in the penultimate episode of this first season and is referenced in the book 27 years ago for the events of It, that Dick Halloran was actually there in the book.
That is true. Yeah, he's mentioned in the book offhandedly, but like he's mentioned in the scene as being there.
So I guess the logic of this first season was to have him actually be a real character, so it's not just he was just some guy there. I overall really liked the show. I did really like that character. I felt it did become repetitive, though, that it's almost like every episode, he's having a shining attack and he's having mental health issues with the shining powers. But I did really like the series. I liked how they held off with bringing in Pennywise. But yeah, the finale does some interesting things with the lore and the rules of Pennywise, and the problem I think here is that you want to set up Pennywise as this terrifying, force of evil, but when you have all these rules and stuff that will be barriers to him, and you're gonna if these kids can defeat Pennywise and then he gets defeated again by the next set of kids, he's not so scary anymore if every set of kids he fights is gonna defeat him. So I did like this first season, but I hope in the future they don't hold back and actually have him kill essentially all of the kids in the next season. Is what I hope.
Ross is in the group, the chat, friend of the show. Ross, he mentioned the storyline we forgot to cover that was actually really crazy. I'm pulling it up on here now. It was involving a director from Netflix who was charged with stealing a very large amount of money from Netflix. Hollywood director found guilty of scamming Netflix out of $11 million for a show that did not exist. His name is Carl Rinch. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He directed the Keanu Reeves film 47 Ronin, which I did watch, and conveniently is leaving Netflix at the end of the month. I don't know if that's a coincidence or if that's timed with this story, but he directed 47 Ronin for Netflix. He was later charged with scamming $11 million for a show he promised was going to happen that he was not at all working on, did not materialize. He instead used the cash for lavish purchases that included several Rolls Royces, a Ferrari, and about $1 million in mattresses. I don't know how you spend $1 million on mattresses, but that's pretty crazy.
He just wanted to try out all the different mattresses,
He wanted to know if they were good or not,
Jeez.
Part of me wants to be like, hell yeah, steal from Netflix, take their money. But also it's like, that's a lot of money to be taken from Netflix. You're going to get caught eventually, man. Come on,
He was like, they won't let me direct again.
And it's crazy because they were letting him direct. They were like, make this show. We're giving you millions to make this show. And he just went and bought mattresses, I guess, So crazy world. How do you think you're just not going to get caught doing that? Just taking Netflix's money and just not making a show.
That's crazy. We should mention
47 Ronin, though. Check it out before it leaves Netflix. Probably forever.
Is it great?
It's pretty fine. Keanu Reeves fights a bunch of samurais and stuff.
I should mention that Starfighter, the upcoming Star Wars film, is wrapped filming. So we actually have 2 new Star Wars movies that are actually going to come out. It's finally happened.
That is good to know. It feels like Star Wars went through a kind of dark patch for a second, and they had a pretty strong reality check. Like, these TV shows were not doing what they thought they were going to do. Good or bad reasons, or whatever reason they might have been doing badly, they did not hit what they wanted to hit. And I'm sure Lucasfilm was like, why are we investing hundreds of millions of dollars into TV shows that nobody is watching? We can just kind of go back to what was working, make movies that people will go see. And Mandalorian and Grogu looks pretty fun. Every time I see the trailer, I'm kind of like a little bit more sold on it as just kind of like a fun adventure, kind of bringing it back into the Star Wars universe without really doing much to break the rules or, bring in new information. And Starfighter, on the other hand, feels like it's going to kind of move things forward a little bit and kind of get us a better idea of what the future of Star Wars looks like narratively. But neither one of these have Skywalkers in them at the front. They might have a cameos or small roles for them here and there, but it's not like Rey Skywalker's next movie or something like that. So they're starting slow. They're getting us back into the world of the galaxy far, far away, but not quite diving in. Happy 10-year anniversary to Force Awakens. 10 years ago today, we were in the theater watching that thing. Probably had already watched it by now. Had our minds blown, man. 10 years, can you believe it? 10 years of the sequel trilogy, 10 years of discourse around the sequel trilogy, but 10 years of the Force Awakens. That's a pretty fun anniversary to celebrate.
Is it time for a sequel trilogy nostalgia?
I think it's time. It's kind of a bummer that they didn't do a re-release of Force Awakens this year, because I think people are ready to at least go back and remember how fun that movie was. And I think once you get away from the vitriolic anger around, the movie you might not have liked, whether it was Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker, and you have an understandable gut reaction of I hate this thing and I want out of this thing. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And now 10 years later, you're like, okay, maybe it wasn't the worst thing ever, you know. And I think people can kind of warm up to the sequels, and I hope that Disney sees that. I hope Disney's not afraid to lean into that kind of stuff, lean into these characters, lean into these themes. I don't necessarily need like an episode 10 right now, but I think it'd be weird to not come back to Ray. I think it'd be weird to not come back to Finn and to Poe and what they're doing right now. I think you have all these characters. People clearly, the hunt for Ben Solo has resonated with to an extent with the fandom. So I think people are ready to move on and just focus on the stuff that they liked in these movies more so than stuff they didn't like. Same with the prequels. People are willing to look past a lot of the flaws because there's things that they like in them, characters they like, moments that they like. And I think the sequels are going to have a similar mindset. And I think it's not an unpopular opinion to say the sequels are probably better than the prequels are. So I think people will in general become more positive on them than they are now.
Imagine Starfighter's just like Phantom Menace all over again. It's just a bunch of walking and talking about politics. It's really boring.
Ross asked the question if the rumor of them releasing the theatrical cut of New Hope in the theaters is true. It is true.
Yeah.
It's actually been confirmed by Disney that at least in this anniversary release coming out in 2027 for the 50th anniversary of Star Wars is going to be the theatrical cut of Star Wars. So no New Hope subtitle, no Greedo shooting at Han, no. What are some of the other crazy changes in there? No CGI animals walking around in the background, no Jabba the Hutt cameo. A lot of stuff will be changed, but I'm excited for it, man. It's going to be a great time to rewatch that original cut of the movie. I'm not like one of those staunch haters of the special editions. I pretty much just watch those cuts because it doesn't really bother me to that extent, really. But I'm happy it's out there because it's kind of frustrating that cut's not at least available to watch if you want to watch it. So I'm definitely going to be watching it, and I'm hopeful that they'll release it on 4K or something like that so that I can have that be my normal watch for Star Wars.
If you care about Anaconda spoilers, stay off the internet because there's a spoiler that was officially released.
There was a trailer for that prior to Avatar that was truly painful, man. I can't wait for this movie to come out so I don't have to watch these trailers ever again. I've never seen trailers convince me not to watch something before.
You don't think it looks good?
Not even close to good. When they start playing my Anaconda Don't, I'm like, this is just too on the nose, man. You got to come with something else.
It's peak. It's actual peak, man.
EDM mentioned they just watched the Star Wars Holiday Special for the first time. Wow, just wow. How did that thing get made? Ay. We should definitely cover that at some point. I would love, maybe before Starfighter or something, we'll do like a Star Wars coverage on the channel. We'll cover all the Star Wars movies throughout the galaxy far, far away. Because I really got to get Ari's reaction to the Star Wars Holiday Special, like a live stream or something like that.
Great piece of television, absolutely phenomenal.
April Fool's Day, we should do like the Star Wars Holiday Special, both the Ewok movies,
when Chewbacca's grandpa goes in a little simulator and starts watching porn.
Yeah, really, really strange. EDM's asking for our thoughts on Knives Out. I was a huge fan of the new Knives Out. I know it got mixed reception, but I thought it was the best of the three. I thought it was really tightly focused on Daniel Craig's character, Benoit Blanc, and Josh O'Connor's priest character, Judd. It really did a lot to explore those characters, explore the themes of faith and what that means to people, different forms of faith, not necessarily just religious belief, but faith in other areas. Atheism as a pretty valid faith in Benoit Blanc's stance, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the mystery was compelling. I thought the way it wrapped up was not super satisfying, but the like initial setup, the first like half of the thing is really, really great. If you're looking for like an actual compelling murder mystery with really good clues and that kind of stuff that you can kind of follow along and solve with the characters, it's not really going to be that. But if you're looking for more of a character study focused on these two or three people and their conversations with each other, I think you'll like it a lot. All right. What were your thoughts on Knives Out?
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't like it so much when I first watched it, but on a rewatch, I did enjoy it for what it was. I still think, the supporting cast is a bit underused. I mean, like Kaylee Spaney's there to just be there, and I guess she plays a part, but I would have liked more from that supporting cast. But Josh O'Connor's great. He's really becoming a really good name. I mean, going to be in a Spielberg movie next year. I mean, this guy is really taken off. I even just saw him in an interview with Ryan Johnson where he was talking very positively about The Last Jedi, being like The Last Jedi is a masterpiece. I'm like, he said, why did this guy only give it a 4 stars? What the hell's wrong with him? But yeah, I really liked it. I really like Josh Brolin. I really like how it tackles religion and stuff. And the cinematography was great. The movie looked gorgeous. I can't believe it's. I think I saw that it's not on the short list for the Academy for
That's a bummer.
cinematography, which is wild. But don't worry, don't worry. Wicked is on there, so
Oh yeah, Wicked will be fine. We got Wicked.
Everything's fine. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Mila Kunis. I mean, she was in the movie. She was there. I don't know what to really get out of that performance. She's just kind of there. And the score was good again from Nathan Johnson. It's probably my least favorite. I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe putting it over Glass Onion. They're all good movies. They're all good movies. So But
I appreciate that all
was,
3 of them are different too in terms of their style and their tone.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
They don't not totally different from each other. They feel connected to each other, but it's also like he's not afraid to just change up how it looks, how it feels, what they're focused on.
I
It made me
wonder
really
if-
excited for the next one.
Yeah, I wonder if the next one maybe they have it be like in the Midwest or something. Like in the middle of winter or something like that. They're all at a cabin.
Yeah, I could see it in like an asteroid city, kind of like little town in the middle of nowhere type of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's our week in movie news. Did you have anything else you wanted to bring up that may have broke during the show? I haven't seen anything, but
No, I just need to ask you if you plan on seeing The Housemaid.
oh, I'm so excited for it. Are you kidding me?
I'm sure. What are the reviews like for The Housemaid?
I actually have not actually looked up the reviews.
It's actually positive.
81% right now on Rotten Tomatoes. That's actually pretty 77%. Google had not updated their AI results or whatever.
It sounds like it's like a fun thriller. Oh, Avatar: Fire and Ash has actually gone down to 1%. It's now at 69%.
Nice.
Can you believe before we end that Five Nights at Freddy's 2 second weekend dropped exactly 69%?
See, now you know it's a meme movie. Can you believe though that Avatar: Fire and Ash is currently sitting at a lower percentage than The Housemaid?
That's incredible.
I can't wait for The Housemaid. There was a bit at some of the press screenings where people were being given plates to throw in the sky and smash at a certain part in the movie. So I can't wait to watch and see when she smashes plates and be like, I could have been doing it. If I went to the press screening, I could have been smashing those plates. I got invited and I ended up not being able to make it because I was working. But
that's miserable.
I'm looking forward to the movie. It looks like my kind of camp, I can't wait to end the year on The Housemaid.
Sydney Sweeney. Everyone hates Sydney Sweeney because they're just jealous.
They're jealous of The Housemaid,
Yeah.
It was a great year talking news with you. I know we just started it this year. We're coming up on Christmas. I don't know if we're going to record next week. We'll try to. If something breaks, I'm sure we'll make a point to record. But if we don't see you guys, Merry Christmas. Everybody who celebrates Christmas. If we don't celebrate, hope you guys have a great December 25th. And it's a good day for you guys anyway, right? So I had a great week talking news here, Ari. And I'm hoping we'll be here next week, especially if something breaks, we'll make it. But usually the holiday week, you're not really going to be breaking news. The people at Variety, at Deadline, they want to go home. They don't want to do anything. They're going to have to watch Stranger Things, though. So on the 25th, 26th, somewhere around there, hopefully we'll have reviews up for Stranger Things. We reviewed the other previous seasons leading up to this newest season, so you hope we would get reviews out for the newest season at some point soon, too. We're also going to be reviewing the finale. I know we're all going to see it in theaters, so we'll probably do like a big group review of the finale or something like that. That'll be a lot of fun. Michael's going to want to do Christmas content, so we'll have Christmas movie rankings coming up the next couple of days. And as always, the awards season never ends. It only heats up. So me and Michael in the next couple of days, maybe the next week, before the end of the year, we're going to be doing predictions for the Oscar nominees. We haven't been able to do predictions in a long time. I've been trying to get Michael to do a prediction episode. He wants to cover all these other things. I really got to get those predictions out. I'm itching for predictions, Michael. Come on, let's do it. Let's do predictions, man. Come on. I'm ready for a great year next year in movies. He talked about all kinds of great stuff coming up. So stick around. Here's the thing. If you want to get 2026 news coverage, 2026 movies, 2026 TV. Oh my God, the next year is going to be so ridiculously stacked with stuff all over the entertainment sphere. GTA 6 comes out next year. We got to find a way to talk about that on this channel somehow. We got to review that somehow on this channel, man. We'll find a way. Ari, any last thoughts? It's not our last show of the year, but it's close to it. So, you feeling any thoughts looking back on 2025 and looking forward to the next year?
I'm just looking forward to seeing Marty Supreme. That's all I care about. That and Anaconda.
Oh man, Marty Supreme will definitely be doing a review of that.
And
you know,
Song
so
Sung Blue.
we'll get our reviews out there. Even if the new show is off for a week or two for the holidays, reviews do not take a time off. So you'll see more of our faces, I'm sure. Happy holidays, you guys. We'll see you before the end of the year, but keep yourself safe. Keep yourself warm out there. Go see Avatar if you want to see Avatar, but go see The Handmaid and go see The Housemaid. You know, that's a real movie. Go see The Housemaid. That's my last thoughts of the year. Go see The Housemaid.